Back in 1992, Pepsi had a promotional campaign called the Number Fever. It was created in order to increase their market share against its rival Coca-Cola. At that time, Coke was miles ahead of Pepsi in the so-called soft drink wars, after the latter dominated the local market in the late 1970s. Pepsi needed to push back and gain some ground. Christopher Sinclair, who was then PepsiCo's CEO, decided on an exciting new marketing campaign to get more people excited about buying Pepsi. On January 15, 1992, Pepsi Cola Products, Philippines, Incorporated or PCPPI, the local franchise holder of PepsiCo Incorporated, formally applied for a permit with the Department of Trade and Industry to conduct the nationwide Number Fever campaign in the Philippines. The DTI approved PCPPI's application on January 23, and Number Fever commenced soon after. A Mexican consultancy firm called DG Consultors randomly pre-selected the winning numbers along with their corresponding security codes, which was then sent to PCPPI. According to a Supreme Court decision on the case, to ensure that the list of winning numbers would not be tampered with, it was kept inside a safety deposit box inside the UCPB branch in Legazpi Village, Makati. The security box could only be opened using two keys, each held by a representative of the DTI and PCPPI. The DTI then supervised the production of the winning crowns and their subsequent release into the market. The promo was simple: buyers of Pepsi Cola products, Pepsi, 7-Up, Mirinda, and Mountain Dew, could take home the amount printed underneath the bottle caps or crowns if the corresponding three-digit number matches the one Pepsi announces as the winner for that day. It was like the mini version of the lottery, but with slightly better odds of winning. Amounts ranged from as little as 100 pesos to as much as 1 million pesos. Almost immediately after the campaign started in February 1992, it proved to be an instant hit. People began buying Pepsi products, keeping the caps and crowns, and then waiting for the nightly announcement of winners on ABS-CBN's TV Patrol newscast. Winners were able to claim their cash prizes at designated Pepsi redeeming stations after the company verified that the caps or crowns were legitimate and had not been tampered with. After the promotion was rolled out, Pepsi's market share jumped from 19% to over 24%, sales increased a reported 40% during the contest. Bottling plants ran 20 hours a day, doubling their usual production. Pepsi's Number Fever became a national phenomenon. The contest was so popular, it was extended for 5 additional weeks. The nightmare begins. On the evening of May 25, 1992, it was announced that 349 was the winning number. Ordinarily, only a few buyers would turn up to collect their prize. But this time, tens of thousands of people came forward holding in their hands a cap or crown with the number 349. A computer glitch had printed the winning 349 number under 800,000 bottle caps. There were hundreds of thousands of people who believed they were now millionaires. Some even had dozens of 349 bottle caps in their possession. When they showed up at Pepsi's bottling plants the next day to claim their prizes, they were stopped at the gates and told the company had made an error, and that no prize money would be given out. Mass outrage and riots erupted. Boycotts and protesting ensued. Pepsi claimed that only 2 winning bottle caps had a special security code. Winners shouted that none of the promotional materials said anything about a special security code. Pepsi was forced to put up a barbed wire fence around their buildings. Homemade bombs were heaved at their bottling plants. Furthermore, honoring 800,000 bottle caps with 349 printed on them would cost Pepsi $32 billion. To put that in some perspective, the entire gross domestic product of the Philippines that year was $52 billion. Pepsi executive convened for an emergency meeting at 3 a.m. They couldn't possibly pay out $32 billion. So it was decided that, as a goodwill gesture, they would offer $20 to anyone holding a 349 bottle cap. Some accepted the $20, which cost Pepsi about $10 million. But others did not. Many irate 349 bottle cap holders refused to accept PCPPI's settlement offer. They felt Pepsi was a massive multinational corporation that should make good on their mistake. They formed a consumer group, the 349 Alliance, which organized a boycott of Pepsi products and held rallies outside the offices of PCPPI and the Philippine government. Most protests were peaceful, but on February 13, 1993, a schoolteacher and a 5-year-old child were killed in Manila by a homemade bomb thrown at a Pepsi truck, and in May, 3 PCPPI employees in Davao were killed by a grenade thrown into a warehouse. PCPPI executives received death threats, and as many as 37 company trucks were damaged by being pushed over, stoned or burned. One of the 3 men accused by the NBI of orchestrating the bombings claimed they had been paid by Pepsi to stage the attacks, in order to frame the protesters as terrorists. Then Senator Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, however, suggested that the attacks were being perpetrated by rival bottlers attempting to take advantage of PCPPI's vulnerability. About 22,000 people took legal action against PepsiCo. At least 689 civil suits and 5,200 criminal complaints for fraud and deception were filed. In January 1993, Pepsi paid a fine of 150,000 pesos to the Department of Trade and Industry for violating the approved conditions of the promotion. On June 24, 1996, a trial court awarded the plaintiffs in one of the lawsuits 10,000 pesos, about $380 each, in moral damages. 3 dissatisfied plaintiffs appealed, and on July 3, 2001, the appellate court awarded these 3 plaintiffs 30,000 pesos, about $570 each, as well as attorney's fees. PCPPI appealed against this decision. The suit would reach the Philippine Supreme Court, which in 2006 ruled that PCPPI is not liable to pay the amounts printed on the crowns to their holders. Nor is PCPPI liable for damages thereon, and that the issues surrounding the 349 incident have been laid to rest and must no longer be disturbed in this decision. The actual cases involving the Pepsi 349 incident may have since been resolved and have slowly dissipated into the mists of history, but for those who lived through it, especially the thousands who fought for the right to be heard and acknowledged, the story lives on.